Woo! It's time for me to tell you what I think and act like it's the greatest opinion in the world. We're gonna talk about Yamaha. We're gonna see what the Yamaha's been up to today. If you're new to this series here, which has become now, I go through manufacturers of things and I look at them and give my overly judgy opinion. I'm an influencer, so that means I know better than other people, right? Some people say I'm a Yamaha fanboy. I just always say it's the bikes I ended up with. They've done some interesting stuff lately. You know, they've gotten rid of some bikes. They've added some bikes or some bikes we want to see from them that I don't know if we're gonna get. I don't know if I necessarily love everything they've been up to. There is a better, longer version of this video that came out first, and they're usually a video or two ahead of the public videos. That's over on Patreon. Woohoo, Patreon, yes. So go over there, check out the Patreon version if you want. Help support me. It's only costs you $1 a month. And most importantly, you get to join the Discord server and playing golf with friends lately and just staying up till 2 in the morning. That's a good time over there. Let's get into it. Yamaha. So the first thing here I want to talk about, when you look at these pianos, it's so ridiculous. Look, half these keys are unlabeled. How am I supposed to know what they do? Look though, look at the very first picture that pops up on here. What do you see? Oh, is that a new R6? Nope, that's that R7. We're definitely going to talk about that. I have some opinions of that thing. We'll probably save that one for last. Let's see, what kind of categorization is this? There we go, that's what I wanted. I want some subcategories here. Let's go to scooters. What y'all got for scooters, man? Oh, the Zuma 125. Oh, look how upright that thing is. They say when you ride around a scooter, everyone knows what it looks like when you poop. Ha ha ha. Also what you look like when you sit in a chair. I mean, I don't think people go around the office going, that's what it looks like when you poop. The prime years for this bike was when it was a little two-stroke small things. It's kind of been fun because it's always been like a smaller scooter that's like slightly off-road oriented, which, you know, I'm gonna love that. As ridiculous as that should be with a scooter, it's just chunkier than I'd like it to be. I'd like it to see more beyond. Oh god, look at that one with the Let's get off scooters. Let's go to motocross bikes. The 252 stroke is like unchanged for years, right? Yeah, because it's like what B-Rad has. But it's like, is two-stroke dead or is it not? Like, it seemed like it was dead and then it kind of came back. You get your little kid bikes, you get your 250. Let's look at this. Let's look at this Monster Energy 450. It's a good looking bike, isn't it? Got that backwards engine. If you don't know, with a lot of these singles that Yamaha does, like in their WRs and the YZ bikes, the exhaust comes out the back, and then the intake's up on the front, and its whole thing, like where the fuel tank would be is really where the gas tank would be. The gas tank's kind of back behind and underneath there, but you still have a fuel filler up front, which I think is probably kind of smart because, you know, you don't have the problem like the 701s have, where if you loop it out, you can catch the bike on fire. Kind of compression, wow, 13-to-1, woo! Nothing I'd be in the market for anytime soon because I'm not some, some motocross guy. Let's see, under cross country. You see, this is what's crazy. It kind of gets a bit blurry. It just depends on everyone's terminology, right? Enduro, a trail bike, a competition bike, a street dual sport. It gets a bit blurry. Here, let's go right to the WR. Y'all know I had the WR for years. It's a great bike. It's kind of a parts bin special bike. It always has been. At this point, it's just basically a tuned back down slightly version of, I guess, the race version. Got this cool blue rims. You know, I like blue rims, so it's funny. It's still got the same tail light that mine used to have. So it's the same head. I think that's the same headlight. It's just got the new cool backwards motor in it. Wow, it does still have the same compression ratio. It has a wide ratio though transmission. I bet you the cams are not as aggressive though in this. Wet weight 262 pounds. If you ask somebody with a WR450 at Supermo, say how much does that thing weigh, they're just gonna tell you like 260 pounds. They never consider like the street equipment or the Supermoto wheels or the bash plates or anything else they added. The bike was 280 something when I weighed it one time. It's still really light, but it's just funny how many people like, yeah, it's 260 pounds. People will tell you these bikes make like 60 horsepower. That's my favorite thing. Oh, my WR makes like 60 horsepower. Who told you it made 60 horsepower? The funny thing about these bikes, completely stock, throttle only barely turns. I think it only goes to 25%. And I think that's a green sticker California thing. There's things like that on a lot of bikes. Remember when the CR450L was coming out and everyone was crying like, oh, it's only gonna make 22 horsepower. And they're making like big articles about it and people were making YouTube videos about it. And I was laughing at them because it's like, it's gonna be something dumb like a throttle stop. I think Yamaha's biggest mistake with this WR is not trying to make a street legal version of it. Put emission stuff and put a fan on it. Let's look at some other cross-country bikes here. Anything else worth seeing here? What is this? This is just like the, not for motocross, was the suspension setup different? YZFX. So what's the difference between this and the normal one? I would think more would be like a trim thing, like it's the same model with like different trim levels. Air Scrambler Focused Racer. Yep, so they're not trying to do the big jumps, but flying out, doing the hair scrambles. One of these days, maybe I'll do one of those. That'd be fun. Mid-30-year-old group for unexperienced idiots. Let's look at trail. What's in trail? Oh, the PW50. This bike's been around forever and it's smart because it's a single speed. It's not, look, it's shaft drive. pretty safe. Now I love though that they have this lineup of all this different stuff. Cause so many. That's one thing I'll say about Yamaha, like Honda. They just seem to have. They still have a little bit of everything. You know, most of them, the Japanese ones, like they're missing some kind of class at this point, or they've not focused as much. They still seem like they really try to focus on a little bit of everything with Yamaha, and I like that. It's cool. You know, gotta have variety. They got a little girl right there. I see that could be us. Oh, we're out there hanging out, and we're looking at something over. Oh, they're playing cards. Oh, we're playing cards. Man, go ride the motorcycle. So they're dual sports. My Patreons know this. I actually wanted about a year ago. I was trying to get one of these to do a build with. I know it sounds silly. I was trying to find like a used one though. I was gonna like strip off all the bodywork and make it some kind of like flat trackery looking style bike. And I just thought it would look so wild with that 200 tire on the back. If you don't know, that's kind of the deal with this bike, is it's a 200 air cooled engine, and it also has a 200 size tire on the rear, which is hilarious. I think there's only a few tires that even fit this thing. Back in the 80s, I think it used to have a super wide front. I mean, that's a pretty wide front, but here, let's see, what is it? Oh, it's saying the rear's a 180. I wonder if they changed that. I swear it was a 200. Pretty sure it was. Maybe I'm stupid. But I know there was also a time in the 80s where also the front was like hilariously big too. The funny thing about these bikes, you can follow the trail or you can just kind of go wherever. They don't go very fast. They're not a rip through the woods fast bike. With those tires, and you can air them down, you just ride like it's a goat. Just like the trail's going like this, you can just go just go like that. That little engine is just geared. It's like a little mule. It just goes and goes and goes. It's a lot of fun. I love those little things. They're cool. The reason we didn't get one, the used market is so ridiculous. I was going to be near about the price of just buying a new one. I thought about it still, but out the door, they're going to be a little over $5,000. And I don't know if I can justify $5,000 for this thing. They've been around for so long, unchanged for so long. I feel like I should be able to get one for like $2,500. But the used market, they come up so rarely, and people want like $4,500 for them for like a 10-15-year-old one. I just got put off on it. There's the TX 250, same thing. I've been making this forever. I hate the headlight on this bike, but I think there's people like these things. Probably a great little trail bike. Looks like the seat height's pretty low on it. Is there anything else to say? No, let's move on. Let's talk about something much more interesting that I noticed they still have in here. The old WR250, right? Everyone loves this thing. In the world of like the dual sports, like the mid-range but do-it-all kind of dual sports, the DRZ has been like the king for so many years, and this is probably the only bike that really rivaled it. You know, the WR250, 250X, 250R. The X was the supermoto one they made for a few years. The R is the one that continued on and on. Typically a solid little bike, except there's one problem with it. They got rid of it. See, it says right here, 2020 and 2019. They don't make this bike anymore. And they left the door wide open for Honda and Kawasaki. As you guys know, I'm interested in those. Everyone's saying, oh, I gotta wait for the WR300. I've heard people saying that. Here's the thing. I don't see anything about it, and if they announce it today, there's no telling if they're going to pull a Tanner 700 and just tease it for 5 years. I'm so shocked that they would drop this bike and not have something to replace it with. Also, really silly, I think, not to have the supermoto version anymore. I will say this, it's a little pricey. It's, you know, almost $7,000. You definitely will pay over $7,000 out the door for it. You got the Honda and the Kawasaki coming in under $6,000 now with their 300 version. Is it going to be better than this though? I think that's what everyone wants to know. It's going to be tough. The Yamaha, even though it's only a 250, it's a really good engine. Yeah, it's a shame they got rid of this thing. Come on, Yamaha, get it together. Sport touring. Look at this, they still have the Niken in here, the Niken GT, which I think they made for 1 year, 2019, right? Look, it's got 2019 up here. This was a weird thing. I guess technically it had more front end grip. It's also got a whole lot more weight. Those are 14-inch wheels on the front. The funny thing is how they put these dual forks on it, and one of them's just a dead one. It's just to give it more stability. This bike was weird to me. I don't want to spend too much time on it. At least they tried stuff. I mean, I don't want to beat them up too much because I do like the idea of trying things that are outside the box. Hey, let's try one with some extra wheels. What's the difference between the Tracer 9 GT and the Tracer 900 GT? This is 2020, 2019. I bet you. Let's just look at the current one. You didn't have to rename it Yamaha. I can see where this would make a good solid sport touring platform. The FZ09 for someone who wants to do a little more distance or drive it every day to work. I think this is the same headlights that's on like the FZ09, isn't it? Like, it just actually has a fairing around it. It's kind of a big bulbous fairing, but it looks good. These lights by themselves, though, look horrible. I also like that it looks like they've got the those little lights that you would see like on the R1 down there, almost like little fog lights. The price is about $15,000. $15,000 though. I'm trying to think. It's the normal FZ or MT09. Could you get one of those and like throw a windscreen on it in some bags. Would that be a better deal? I'm thinking the tank's gonna be bigger on this thing, but it does have a smaller fuel tank. But man, it's a big price difference. All right, we'll come back to that. These big old things, what is this thing? $18,000. Oh God, what size is this engine? The 1300 cc, big old inline 4, shaft drive, 642 pounds wet. I'm sorry, I would just take the other version. I would take the 900. It's that's gonna be plenty of motor. Okay, you gotta, adjust the chain and lubricate it every once in a while. I'll take it. This is a lot of money and just so much extra bike. I think there's better options out there. Let's go to transcontinental touring. The Venture, the Star Venture. So I guess I believe the deal with this bike is it's supposed to be going after the Goldwing. Giant air-cooled engine. I'm kind of surprised Yamaha went with a big air-cooled engine, because I feel like once you're going to this class, it's like, especially if you're going for the Goldwing market, why don't you just throw a big water-cooled engine in it? I wanted bikes with water cooling. When the engine gets that big, I don't know, man. I don't know. Yeah, it's 18,500 cc's. Oh my God, the wet weight is 963. Is that right? 963 pounds. Okay, get a car at that point. I just think there's better touring bikes out there. I still think the 900 thing is a better touring bike than this. I guess if you're gonna go somewhere with someone on back, you do have quite the setup there. What's Sport Heritage? Sport Heritage. The VMAX. Do they still make the VMAX? 2020 is the last year they're showing in here, so maybe that was last year. I feel like you just never saw these things. This thing is crazy. Big 1700 cc V4. I always thought the styling was a little bit weird on it, though. I mean, I know it's meant to be radical. I think the old version looked a little cooler. I feel like if they just restyled this and kind of reamped it a little bit, they could have made something really popular. Because if you look at the Rocket 3, the new version's amazing, and people love that thing. It's a $20-something thousand bike. What's this thing? 18,000. Big crazy muscle cruiser. I want to say for a long time, I'm not sure if it still is, but if you looked up like motorcycle, like fastest 0 to 60 times, I think this thing was the holder for a good while, held the record. Just has a fat enough tire on the back, enough weight to grip it with all that engine. It's just the right balance that it really could get out the hole quick. Oh, the bolts. Arguably the Yamaha Sportster. That's what a lot of people call it. A lot of people have said compared it head-to-head with the Sportster and said it's better. It's always been the weird thing to me, like in the cruiser market, when the Japanese ones just kind of chase after trying to be like Harley. I kind of like what Honda did with the Rebels, a cruiser that's not trying to be like a cruiser. They're not trying to be like Harley. I appreciate that more. This to me just looks like you tried to make a better Sportster. You might have pulled it off, but they're still going to sell more Sportsters. The XSR 700 and 900. We know what these are. This is the MT09, MT07, try to turn into a sort of a retro bike. To me, these always just looked a little off. And I think the Kawasaki, the 900, they have such a better, it's just a way better doing of this. The tail looks okay. It's just, I think the big problem is the tank. That tank just does not look right on there. Bikes like that were back in the day that had that styling always seemed to have like a real flat sort of bottom tank that kind of matched up with the seat. If you get that line from the seat to the tank, that's when it looked real cool. Oh yeah, in the 07 version, the headlight looks like a paint bucket. Why is it so big? It's the little MT03. You know what I hate about this bike? Is it has better suspension than my 07 has. But I like this thing because I remember thinking this for years when they had the R3. I was like, why don't we have FZ03 MT03? And then they had it in other countries. It's a sharp looking little thing, and I knew from riding the R3, the engine's actually a lot of fun in it. I like that the whole naked class of bikes is more popular amongst the youngsters these days anyway, because when I got into riding it, everyone was all like, you gotta have the RR bike with the plastics on it, and it's honestly pretty silly for just street use. I like the color. I always like the radical colors too they do with these bikes. MT03, awesome, love it. The 07, look at this real quick here because I have an 07. I think y'all know my opinion about it. It's a great little bike. The only real things okay, so here's the thing. Mechanically, this bike has not changed since mine's come out. They have added like a weird extra catalytic converter thing on it. The rear, I'm take it or leave it. They've changed the dash. It's still in a stupid place. Having the dash right there on the bars makes you look, it's too stupid. That's why I moved mine forward. It was not easy though. I do like the seat now. The seat on mine was that it went like real like narrow and pointed up, and you always kind of falling into it. That's why I like having the flatter seat now, and I'm glad that these went to the flatter seat. The headlight. Some people love this thing. I'm in the camp that hates it. I didn't like it. I've never liked the headlight on any of these. I don't like the headlight mine came with. I do like that color of that dash. It looks better. They kind of upgraded it. It's still, I guess, not an LCD screen. That's like a cheap complaint you hear about people when they test ride bikes. Say, well, it's a nice bike, but it doesn't have an LCD on it. Who cares? Now they don't all need it. It's fine. That works for this bike. As far as the other, like SV650s, the Ninja 650. I tell people, so I bought mine because I think it's the best one, and I still agree to that. That's the best one out of those class bikes. 58 miles to the gallon. I've never seen it. I've seen in the mid 40s, but you know, we try to make sure we don't. You're not having enough fun if you're seeing that kind of mileage. Headlight's terrible though. Of course, you think that headlight's terrible. Look at this guy. Oh man, this thing. But I do love that they make this bike because, you know, it's basically a naked R1. It's like Johnny number 5 in the front. It's so weird looking, but I think you just own it. You just get it and you just go with it. You're like, yep, that's what it is. So I would look at it like if I was in the market for a leader bike, you gotta look at this as like a pretty good deal for one. It's like 13 grand. Bikes don't have to look crazy streamlined in my opinion. I like it when they're a little bit silly. Let's jump back to adventure touring. I thought they got rid of the Super Tanneray. All right, fine, we'll talk about the Super Tanneray. A venture bike that's probably a little more road focused than it is dirt focused. It sits on a 1917 combo. I would love to see this engine in something else, because this is basically the same, you know, engine that's like in my bike, but 1200cc version. Let's talk about the old Tanneray 700. Well, clearly I like this bike. I got tired of waiting for it and built my own. Oh, wow. Oh, this is why it took a minute to load. Look, they've got some kind of... Oh, man. Oh, my God. Oh. He's on X Games mode. This was the color right here I was going for when I was doing mine, with the blues and the black, gray. Big, heavy, expensive was just how the big adventure bikes were. Then there was small little things, and then there was dual sport things. And this was like the really good to get back to something kind of in the middle and being quite affordable. You know, it starts under 10,000. You know that engine's a great engine. It's a very simple bike, less to go wrong with. A friend out in Australia, Nerve One, you know, he had a big, what was it, a 1090? And he rode that thing very aggressive. Funny to see him go from that to one of these, and one of the cheap things he was talking about was just how much simpler that bike is. There's less to go wrong with it. It's a more affordable bike for people, and it's a more capable bike. It's like such a big win right there, and I love the idea of the old adventure world growing and getting bigger and more fun, because I'm just getting into it myself, and it's a lot of fun. I wish I'd gotten into it years ago. Let's go look at super sports. Got the little R3. We've kind of talked about that with the MT03. Same thing with fairings on it. Let's look. Something that's kind of sad here. The R6, because as you can see here, 2020 was the last year. They don't make the R6 anymore. And for myself, I actually started on R6. I had a 2001 R6, was the first bike I ever owned. I know you shouldn't start on a bike like that. I wasn't so sure about those fin things on the back, but I kind of like them now. Little holes in there. Yeah, so they dropped that, and this is the big thing. We'll come back to what they replaced it with here in a second. Yeah, I had an R1. I'm not so crazy about the front end of this bike. It looks like a fish to me. I love that they've stuck with that cross-plane engine. They sound so cool with exhaust on them. Classic, it's a good bike. I'm glad they still make this one. Save this one for last, because this is an interesting bike right here. I've had a lot of people ask me my opinion about it. People seem to be real excited about it. Basically, they've took the MT07 and turned it into a super sport bike. It looks real good. You know, obviously, it looks very similar to kind of like the 600. It's got this really neat little headlight right there in the middle. I'm curious how well that's going to work at night, because I have seen it on and it didn't look that bright to me. Got inverted forks on it, which is like, okay, it tells me you've got forks, Yamaha, that'll go on there. Can I have those forks, please? I'm pretty sure those are the 03's forks. So what do I think about this? I know it's a good engine. I always knew it would make a good engine for an adventure bike and a stunt bike. So what do I think about this being in a super sport bike? Well, I think it's kind of silly, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't understand this move. Maybe this will be popular and it'll sell well, and if that makes some money, then that's good. But maybe that fork helps out a whole lot. I never was that confident in the twisties with my 07. Here's the thing too about the engine in this bike. It's grunty, it's torquey, but once you really wrap it out there, it doesn't have a ton up top. And you got a whole fairing, this thing, you're meant to be going fast on it. I mean, look, they're showing it like, yeah, it's a track bike and a super sport road bike. I hate to say it, because I'm using the one that's not like, you need more engine, but I think this thing, I don't think that's enough engine. If the 09 actually would have made more sense. I feel like that would have, that engine's got a lot to go. It's a little better. And again, I love this engine. It's a great engine. It just doesn't have the top end for a super sport bike, in my opinion. So I'm very confused about this. I don't understand this move. People are excited about it though. Maybe it'll make them a lot of money, and I hope it does. What's y'all's thought on this thing? But yeah, I think we've about covered them all. We've gone over a little bit of this and that. Give me my opinion. Told you what I think is cool, what I think is not cool, and what I hopefully think maybe they should change. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Let me know what brand you want to see next in this series. Be sure to check out the Patreon version of this video. Be sure to go to TheGardenSnake.com and check out my silly merch over there. And hopefully we'll have a new project here soon. I'm sure if you don't know by now, go look at the last few videos. I've been We've been talking about what's been going on with that and why we don't have a new project yet, because it's been a weird time post-COVID world that we live in. Y'all take care. Later.